having problems with organizing her paperwork. So I came into her house, and in her entryway, her table was stacked with papers. And she said, "Oh, don't worry about that. That's just my recent mail from the last month." Though I did see peeking out at the bottom the LL Bean catalog from Christmas. And as we continued through the house, we then went to the dining room that was also covered in paperwork. And I was told that that was just her taxes that she was working on for 2020. So no problem. As we then moved to the office, and my client's desk was covered with paperwork, and that was the 2018 taxes that hadn't gotten done yet. So it's very easy for us to accumulate things all over our houses. It becomes very overwhelming as we look around. And so while we are overwhelmed, we need to make decisions in order to declutter our lives. So moving is one of the most traumatic and stressful experiences we will ever endure, ranked along death of a loved one and divorce. A lot of seniors that I work with have already downsized from one home, their forever home, or getting ready to downsize from their forever home to their next home. And so oftentimes people have lived in their homes for 40, 50, 60 years and have accumulated way more than they need. How many of us have our children's items still in our homes and we say, well, one day they'll come and pick them up? That day may never come. And so when the time comes to downsize and move to a community like Belmont Village, all of a sudden, all of these items that we have, we need to find something to do with them. Whether we're delivering them to children all around the country. Let's see. And so what are some of the benefits of scaling down? We'll have more control over your space, less time and energy to maintain, less stress, and freedom from chaos and clutter. Right sizing doesn't just mean, it just means owning less of it. So tough choices. Oftentimes, another issue that I come up with a lot is coming into someone's home that has a lot of clothing. I have a lot of clients, especially when moving to senior livings, where they've lived in a home and they've got 20, 30 linear feet of clothing, and now you have to break it down to only 6 to 8 feet. How do you make those decisions? How do you decide which clothes to keep, which clothes you'll need? I often tell a lot of my clients, you've seen in with hangers, you'll have the reversible hangers. So I tell people to take their seasonal clothes and turn the hanger around. And then every time you try something on, or put something on to wear for the day, you turn the hanger around so you've known that you've worn it. And you'll find by the end of the season that really you only wear about 25% of the items that are in your closet at any time. Here's an example of someone that we had moved to a senior community. And again, we wanted to take the essence and the best of what was in their home. There were a lot of extra items that weren't needed to make something like this that was beautiful and to still have the things that Mrs. Jones loved and that really brought her joy in her everyday life. The one thing that people always need to remember about senior communities like Belmont Village is, you know, you have your apartments, those are your home, but really the whole building is your living room. You have the whole area there to be, you're spending time out in the common areas. And so having your place needs to just be your sanctuary and just filled with the necessities, the things that you need for every day. Here's an example of one of those closets I was talking about. And again, it doesn't have to be this way. You can see that there's some clothes in there that still have the tags on them. I helped my grandmother move to a senior living a few years back. And when we went through her closets, more than 50% of the guest room closets that were filled with her clothes all still had the tags on them. So, you know, as we're going through items, things that we've had, and I know that fashions come in and out, but we really need to trim through those. And sometimes you just need to use an organizer like my company, and we would come in and help work with you and help you make those decisions. And for family members, you know, oftentimes you're too close to the situation, it gets too personal. It's nice to have someone who's independent from the situation who can come in, be the bad guy, and help make those choices. Here's another example of somebody that we had moved who had a large African art collection. And again, trying to use every piece of space that we can and just maximize the things that they love. Here's an example of someone we recently moved, and I know at Belmont often, and especially at the Belmont in Westlake Hills, there are a lot of openings over the kitchenettes. And again, just an extra space. You want to use every inch of space that you can to have beautiful things to display. And then also, oftentimes you have to get creative. I don't know if you can see in this slide, if you look through the doorway into the bedroom there, but those were two bookcases that we used to secure to the wall to then divide the sewing area from the office area in the guest bedroom. And then we were able to use command strips to then hang some of the artwork on the back of the bookcases. So having a professional that can help you floor plan out a unit and really, again, maximize every inch of space from the entryway into the guest rooms, all with safety in mind, but allowing to have as much of the items that our clients love to have. So George Carlin is a comedian who's a favorite of mine, and he has a few quotes that have to do with the organizing profession. But trying to be happy by accumulating possessions is like trying to satisfy hunger by taping sandwiches all over your body. So often I have clients who just buy things to buy things. They have closets stuffed with Costco items, and they're still going back to Costco and buying more items. Teachers who have had books and are surrounded by books just piled all around their houses. And then we find that our house is just a place to keep your stuff while you go out and get more stuff. So why can't we let go of things? I might need it someday. More than likely you won't. You know, oftentimes I go into people's homes, especially in their garages, and they have items that they haven't used in 10, 15 years. Also, a lot of times, you know, the houses that we go into are like time capsules. If they're the forever home that someone's been in for 40, 50 years, nothing has changed. And so again, people get very overwhelmed going from room to room and seeing things and say, well, I may need that. Again, we find that oftentimes you won't. It costs a lot of money. Yes, that dining room set that you bought in 1980 cost a lot of money, but now it's 2020. You got your use out of it. It's not going to fit in the new space. If your children want it, let's have them take it. And if not, it's time to get rid of it. It's still good. Well, just because it's still usable, if you don't have a purpose for it, there's no need to keep it. It's good to have extra. It is good to have extra. But again, coming to a place like Belmont, they're there to help provide the extra items for you. You only need the necessities for day to day. It was a gift. Just because somebody gave something to you doesn't mean that you need to keep it forever. So it was in my family. So I have a client that I'm working with right now who has furniture and items that are from his grandparents, that are from his parents. And those are the items that have brought him comfort and that have surrounded him his entire life. However, because they're older and they're Victorian and they're large, they're not going to fit the new space. They don't make sense. And so this gentleman, really is insistent that his family takes these items, but his family doesn't want the items. And, the New York Times had a article not too long ago, which was titled, "The Kids Don't Want Your Stuff." And, it's more true than ever, especially with the next generations, the millennials. Everyone's minimalist and everyone wants new items. They don't want the old. And so it was in my family is not a good reason to keep things. We need to let these items go. It's not mine. Well, if it's not yours, then give it back. I haven't read it yet. Again, I go into people's homes that are piled with books that they've had for 20, 30, 40 years. If you haven't read it at this point, you're never going to read it. It's irresponsible to throw it away. Then donate it. Why does it need to take up space in your home? So what is clutter? Can anybody tell me what clutter is? Or does anybody have an idea? Okay. Clutter is postponed decisions. We're just not making the ideas. We're opening the garage, which, by the way, is interesting. It's the only part of our home that we show to people, yet it's the only part of our home that will look like this and we open the door and show the world. We look at something like this and say, oh my gosh, this would take hours to do. I'll do it next week. And next week turns into next month, and next month turns into next year. So my golden rule number one is that you have nothing in your home which you don't know to be useful, think to be beautiful, or love. The tennis rackets that you haven't used in 15 years need to go. The third set of china that you've never used, that you can't put in the microwave because it's gold rimmed, has no place unless your children want it. So let's donate it or try to consign it. Just an example of one of our recent clients that we moved. So this was a client that we moved recently, and we were coming into a new space that, again, wasn't appropriate for the furniture that was coming from our client's forever home. And so there was a need to go out and help her purchase items to fit the space, and to do a lot of space planning so that the items that she loved from her house she could bring. But then in the living room area, as you can see, much smaller. We kept the chair from her house, but we needed to find a new coffee table, ottoman, end tables, and love seat to fit the space, things that were appropriate. The decor items that you see here, of course, were from her house, but the étagère, that was new. We did the color coordinating on the bedding. Break your organizing tasks into small, manageable pieces. So there's an old saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. It is impossible, as you may know, if you are an adult child who's trying to help your parent, or if you're a senior who's just living in your home, to go to a community like Belmont Village, look around, look at a beautiful apartment and say, I could see myself living here. I could see my mom living here. And then going back home and looking around at a garage like this or a home full of stuff and think, oh my gosh, I can't move next week. It's going to have to be next year. But I want to tell you that something like this is manageable. And the way you do it is you do have to break it into small pieces, and you start one room at a time, and you just go bit by bit. Or you have a company like mine come in. I have 16 professional organizers on my team who are retired teachers and moms. And this is what we do every day, is come in and help people go through their items. We help them sort through, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the sorting process coming up. So ways to sort and purge. We want to group items that are like items. So group our items together. Again, oftentimes we come into people's homes and their desks are completely covered with paperwork. So let's separate the paperwork. Let's get all the mail into a pile. Let's get all the invoices into a pile, all the bills to be paid, all the cards and letters from your friends and family into another area, and then separate our supplies, our pens, our paper clips, tape, things like that. Then we want to skim through those items. So now that we've separated all of our paperwork, for example, our mail, let's look through it and separate out what we don't need. The junk mail, the advertisements for pool cleaning and lawnscaping. Throw those away. If you haven't used them already, you're not going to. Triage. You also want to figure out what are the most important things. Oftentimes, as I had mentioned, people have paperwork that's on their desk that's things that they no longer need. They have their income taxes from 10 years ago. They have old business. Clients I have that have owned businesses have paperwork related to their business, but their business, they've been retired for over 20 years. You need to figure out, once you've separated those items, what's actually important in those items. And then we need to start shrinking down. So again, now that we've put things in a level of priority, what can we get rid of? Oftentimes, especially when we get into items like decor items and furniture and things like that, the first call always is to family to see what they would like. And then once we've gone through family, then we look at consignment, donation, estate sales, which are becoming harder nowadays. But I will tell you, there are a lot of online estate sale companies. That is becoming a lot more popular nowadays. And so that's another route to look at. There are companies out there like Max Sold. And then also I want to let you know, because oftentimes there are only 1 or 2 furniture items that a family member may need across the country, that there are companies like Mini Moves that specialize in small shipments and could ship a piano or a dining room set from one side of the country to the other. So here's an example of a garage that we had worked on not too long ago, before and after. And really, it was just a matter of pulling everything out, putting everything into piles of like items, allowing the client to look and to decide what was trash, what was to keep, and what could be donated, and then to put back what was left. And you can see, really, there wasn't that much that was needed from that pile of mess that was in there before, or pile of clutter. Here's another example. And so, oftentimes, a lot of us will go to the Container Store or to Target and get bins. So we've separated our items into what they are. Now let's put them into bins, keep them together, and label what they are so that we know what we're looking for. So when you're deciding what you should keep and what you should throw away, here are a few questions that you need to ask yourself. When was the last time that I used it? So again, if you have books that you had when you were in 8th grade in high school, or yearbooks that you've had that you haven't looked at in 20 years, those might be items that you may want to think about getting rid of. the tennis rackets that you haven't used, the pile of LL Bean catalogs that are sitting in the corner. If you haven't gone through those, let's get rid of them. Why are you keeping them? It's only bringing you anxiety to see them. Is this item still useful, relevant, and do I love it? Those LL Bean catalogs, again, are you using those? You're never going to use them again. Have you looked at those National Geographics? Do your kids look at those National Geographics? Did their kids, your grandchildren, do they look at them? Then it's time to get rid of it. Is it in good working condition? Is it safe to keep? The other day I was at a client's and it was a scary situation. She was a hoarder. And when we got to her office that was stacked with paperwork to the ceiling, she had a space heater that was from the early 80s, if not late 70s, with a shredded cord that ran right over paper into the socket. And we made a safety decision right at that moment in the consultation that we were going to get rid of that space heater. But the first thing that the client had said to me is, well, it still works. Just because something still works doesn't mean that it's safe. So we want to make sure that the things that we're moving are safe, that the things that we're keeping are safe. You know, it may not make sense if our loved one is a fall risk to keep that glass-topped coffee table with the sharp corners and bring that to Belmont. That might not be a good idea. That might be an item to look to see if family would like it, or to donate it, or try to consign it. Will the item fit in my new place? A lot of times I have clients who want to be what we call kitchen sink clients. They want to bring everything, including the kitchen sink, and when they get there, they'll make the decisions. Or a lot of times I'll get calls from communities when people have moved themselves and it's been 2 to 3 weeks and they're still surrounded by boxes and the furniture doesn't fit. They didn't realize that there was a light switch in the middle of the wall, or that there was a thermostat there, and their large etagere doesn't fit under the fire alarm. So it's important to space plan ahead of time, and to also not only go off of the floor plans that the communities provide you, but to take pictures of the unit while you're there, know where the things are, like the pull cords, where the thermostats are, where the cable jacks are, so that if you do decide to make the move on your own versus using a move manager, you will be aware of those things and you won't get surprised on the move day, because nothing is worse than showing up and wanting to get it done for your parent and then realizing that you now have to move several items back to the house before you can finish setting up. Is it worth the cost of moving? You know, I'm working with 2 clients right now who are moving from across the country, and I'm part of a national organization of move managers called NASM. And so there are companies like ours all around the country, and I will coordinate with them to help seniors get moved. And when you move long distance, the moves are based on the poundage that you're bringing. And so this idea of a kitchen sink move when you're moving cross country is not the best idea. Moving, you know, 30 bins of Christmas items, which is very common, to a community like Belmont, where you're not going to have the storage space, it doesn't make sense to spend the money of moving it if you have no place to put it. What's the worst thing that could happen if I get rid of it? It's a great question to ask yourself when you're looking at that stack of junk mail that's sitting on your desk. What's the worst that's going to happen if I get rid of it? You'll have some space on your desk to put something else. So how do we get rid of the excess? We can sell items. So oftentimes people will go on eBay, Craigslist, But you also have to ask yourself, what is the value of my time versus the items that I'm trying to sell? A lot of times clients feel that, you know, their items are either worth a lot of money because they paid a lot of money for them a long time ago, or at one time they were collectible, and you know, trends change over time. And so as we're looking at those items and trying to sell them, we have to decide, is it worth our time to try to sell the everyday plates and the glasses and all of the extra items that are in our house to make a few extra bucks, or does it just make sense to box them up and to donate those items or to give them away? You would be amazed how many donation companies are out there that would be willing to come by and pick up items from your house, washer dryers, refrigerators, all of those books. You know, I will tell you, unless they are coffee table books or travel books, those are the ones that companies like Half Price Books will pay money for. But if you have a volume of collection of classics, no one's going to buy those. They need to be donated or given away. We also recycle a lot of items. Electronics, old electronics can be recycled nowadays. Places like Best Buy and Goodwill will accept those items and will recycle them for you. Also, paint. For those of us in Austin, there's the Austin Recycle Center. They will take all of the paint and chemicals. There's no cost for that. You can just bring that to them. Trash, let's get rid of it. Oftentimes, I will have a junk company come to someone's house the day of the move, and all of the extra items that we weren't able to sell, donate, or have given to family, we trash and get rid of it. If you don't love it or use it, don't move it. We have to make the tough decisions to decide what we're bringing. You may have a chair that you love, but if you're moving to Belmont, it may make more sense to bring the chair that has the armrests so that you can get up and down. We love the Oriental carpet that you've had your whole life, but if you're a fall risk or if you have a walker, it may not make sense. It may not be functional. It may not be safe to bring to the new space. So what can a senior move manager do for you? As I mentioned, I have 16 professional organizers on my team. Typically, I will come out and meet with clients. I do a no-cost consultation and will help you decide, if we're organizing within your home, what strategies we need to help you downsize in your home. We'll put together an action plan and then get to work. If you're moving to a senior community, we'll help you by first going to the community. We'll make a scaled floor plan of the new unit that you're going into. I will then come to your home, help measure your items, decide what can fit. I have a magnetic space planning board, and I also have a digital version when I do long distance floor planning with families or clients. But where we can move the pieces around and see exactly how your items will fit and exactly what the space will look like. We even measure the cabinets to see exactly how much space you have so that you don't bring too many kitchen items. Again, you know, being at a place like Belmont, having the wonderful food there, you know, we want to make sure you have some glasses for wine and some bowls for ice cream. But beyond things like that, the baking dishes, the Pyrex, things like that, we can really cut down on those items when we bring them in. So again, we want to develop a move plan. We can help you organize and sort. You know, oftentimes people will say, is it better to sell my house to list my house now or to wait until I get ready to, until after I've moved. And I like to tell people, if you can move into the senior community before you've sold the house, is always the best position to be in. You don't want to have buyers breathing down your neck. And sometimes you need that extra time to empty out the rest of the house, or maybe have a couple of items go back and forth, smaller items, decor type items, as you relax into the new space. I can't stress enough the importance of creating the floor plan, and also with the move plan, making sure that your dates are set up, you've scheduled with your movers, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. Getting rid of what you don't want. Always the first choice is to see if there are things that family wants, but if family doesn't want it, at the end of the day, everything needs to be out of the house. We need to get those items moved. Or if your loved one is already in a senior community and maybe moving, downsizing again, they may have moved into a 2-bedroom and now it's time to move to a 1-bedroom, or one spouse is going to move to a memory care studio and another spouse is going to downsize to a 1-bedroom from the 2-bedroom. So now we have to decide what to do with the items that will no longer fit in the new spaces. And so those are all things that a move manager can help you with. My team does packing and unpacking every day. Today I have 8 team members that are in someone's home who is in Iowa after an accident, and we're packing up her house while she's not there, and are going to be shipping up the entire contents of her house to Iowa at the end of this month. Also, having a move manager can help. On move day, you as the loved one may be spending time with your parent, or you as the senior may be filling out paperwork with Landria and Jamie, or you may be closing on your house the day of the move. And so you don't have the time to be there and manage the movers and manage the people who are packing and setting everything up and making sure that the plan is being followed. So having someone like myself who can supervise the move and can help supervise the transition really helps ease the anxiety that goes into a move. And then, of course, setting up and arranging everything. Oftentimes in those rescue operations that I mentioned, where someone will move and they'll bring too many items and still be surrounded by boxes, another common rescue operation we have is when people hire movers and they say, well, Zach, we don't need a organizing service. Our movers will pack and unpack. And so typically the toothless, tattooed, muscle-bound movers will come in and will pack up your items, and we'll find frying pans in with linens and heavy books on top of glassware that will break. And then the movers will help unpack. But unpacking doesn't mean that they're putting the items away. It just means they're taking everything out of a box and putting it on the nearest surface that's there. So people will walk into their home expecting their home to be unpacked, and everything is unpacked. It's just all over every surface. We'll hang your pictures. We'll hang your drapes. We'll hang your TVs. I have a handy service. It's called the Handy Mams. And these are handy women who can help you with everything that you may need in your home, including changing out light fixtures, or Nest thermostats, or hanging TVs, taking TVs down, drapes, things like that. Here is a client that we had moved, and hopefully this video is going to play. Oh.
Oh, golly, look at that piano.
Is it everything you imagined?
Oh, it's just beautiful. Oh my gosh.
These were clients who, it's a story I had heard all too many times in my time at Belmont Village, but this was a young independent couple from Crawford, Texas that came to visit their family. And while staying with their daughter, Ellen fell down the stairs and broke her ankle and wasn't able to go back to their home. And so their home in Crawford, which they had been in for 40 years, needed to be packed up and moved to this 2-bedroom apartment in Westlake Hills. And so we went to Crawford, Texas. We had floor planned the unit already. We helped figure out what items could come. We FaceTimed with the client from the house, and we decided. And this is how we put together her home.
Come on in.
Here's another video.
Oh,
I
man.
can't believe this. And look at that guy.
This is wonderful.
I just can't believe it. You made the junk look so good.
I love that. So
Oh,
I
man.
can't believe this. And look at
So again, we're trying to take the essence of your forever home and recreate it in the new space that we're coming in. We want everything to be familiar. We want it to be comfortable. We also clean everything. Excuse me. We also clean everything as it comes in. So oftentimes people have furniture that's dusty, that's covered in dirt, and to see everything clean and new again is always a pleasant surprise. When we move people, it's a 2-day process. Typically, we'll have a pack day where we'll come in, pack for several hours, and then take all of the kitchen, bathroom, and fragile items in our cars over to your new apartment. And then the next day, while I'm at your home with the movers, the women on my team will set up the bathroom, set up the kitchen, unpack all the fragile items so that when the movers arrive, we are ready to put everything away, hang the pictures, make the bed, put the toothbrush next to the sink. And so when you walk in, everything is done. And you can just enjoy being in your new space and enjoy being in the new community. It's another one of our clients' bedrooms. Closets that we've done. This was a client that we had moved from Oklahoma City, and we actually were surprised. We had no idea what was coming in her shipment. She had a lot of art, but figuring out a way to make it fit in the space and make it look beautiful. We worked with an organizing team who helped pack in Oklahoma. And so they had taken pictures of the curio cabinet, and we were able to put back everything exactly as it was in our client's home. So again, nothing changed. We just recreated the space. That was a move on the left that we did at Belmont Lakeway. Our client was a LSU Tiger, and that was really important to him. And his wife helped us pick the items out. And typically when we do small memory care moves like this, we can do them in one day, and they're typically done in 4 hours, start to finish. And that includes when we do transitions within a building from an independent living to assisted living, or an assisted living to memory care. Maximizing every inch of space. Again, we can always look for ways to store more items. This was at a senior community. They had a large pantry, but we needed more space, so we put up a rack that we had gotten at the Container Store right behind. Here was a closet that we had redone at a community. When we had first walked in, there was just 2 hanging racks, one on the right and one at the back wall. We added double hang and shelving for storage and shoe shelves, and you can see what a difference it made and how it really maximized the space. To the right, is that's an entryway closet at Belmont Village in Westlake. And the resident wanted to have a lot of pantry area. And so we transformed the closet into a pantry as well as a coat closet. Another Belmont Village picture, but just again, wanted to show you how you can decorate on top of the kitchenettes and really use all of the decor items or as many of the decor items from your home as you would like. This was a client that we worked with who was an artist, and he had actually created all of those glass pieces that you see there. Now, this is another example of using the space to make the most sense. This was a client that we had worked with who had macular degeneration and was unable to read any longer. And he really wanted to take these bookcases, which had been filled with books at the time, but to bring all the books, the cost of packing the books, the weight of the books, it didn't make sense. And so I was able to convince the client, let's work with your love of music. So let's bring your CDs, let's bring your stereo, let's put out a lot of pictures, your family visits, let's bring a lot of pictures of the family so that they can see them. And so, I often tell my clients, you can have whatever you want in the space. It just comes at the sacrifice of something else. So, my client wanted those CDs and there was no other place to put them. So let's sacrifice the books. And those are those tough choices and the decisions that a move manager and a professional organizer can help you make or help motivate your parent to make and take you out of the equation and let you just be the daughter or the son, not the one who's trying to take away their stuff while our seniors are having a hard enough time with the control being lost moving to a community. It's another client that we had moved and we helped buy furniture for to fit her new space. So that rug is new, the lampshades are new. Packing up. So who's gonna pack? Oftentimes I have people call me and have me come out for a consultation. We talk about what's involved with getting packed up and moved. And they let me know that their family is going to help them, but they will let me know if they need any help. And family normally is very well intentioned, but nowadays people are very short on time. And typically what happens, the move catches up on you and not everything is done. We don't always have to help do the entire move. We can help you just a little bit. So sometimes we'll have families that want to pack with us, and we'll just send one or two of my organizers to go and work with you. Where to start when you're packing, and what kind of boxes to use. One of the worst things you can do for yourself or for movers is to get a medium or large or dish pack box and fill it with books or kitchen appliances or very heavy items. It makes, those boxes can get to be 2, 3, 4, 5, even 500 pounds if you put too much in them. So you need to be using smaller book boxes are the ones you should be looking for. And in the Austin area, I would suggest there is a company called EcoBox, and getting your boxes from them. They're a wholesaler. Their boxes are way less expensive than going to a Home Depot or Lowe's. How to pack the boxes. Again, you don't want to pack books with breakable decor items. People love to shove their dressers with magnifying glasses, picture frames, jewelry, loose jewelry, and just assume that the movers can move the dressers filled with those items. They need to be packed up. Only soft clothing or linens can travel in dresser drawers. If you have a a vertical file cabinet, the top 2 drawers need to be emptied so that it's not top heavy when you're transporting items. How to label the items. So we need to make sure that we're labeling items appropriately. Think about where the items are going to be going in the new space versus where they're coming from. You may be packing items off of an upstairs bookcase, but when they get to the new space, there is no upstairs. They're actually going into the living room where that bookcase is now, that upstairs bookcase is now. So you may want to label it living room bookcase as opposed to upstairs bookcase where you packed it from. Having a survival box. Always your phone chargers, important medications, important paperwork, things that you need for your closing, your checkbook. Those items should all be readily available to you at any time and in one box that you can always locate. Selecting a mover. You want to make sure that you get several written estimates. I am able to do estimates for my movers, so I'm able to give you a couple of different estimates based on long distance or local. You want to make sure that you choose an experienced and licensed mover. Don't shop by price alone. I would be scared if someone gives you a price over the phone just based on what you verbally tell them. People need to see it. You are typically paying for a move by the hour. If you're not paying for a move by the hour, make sure that there is a not to exceed part to that and ask them what that not to exceed number is. I've seen people who have had moves that they thought were going to be $3,000, and then all of a sudden, not my movers, but their movers tell them now it's $7,000. So make sure you know what that is. Don't go by who offers you the cheapest price at the move day. The other thing is you want to consider movers are only as good as the guy who's going to show up at your door the day of the move. So just because your friend worked with Unicorn Moving and had a great experience doesn't mean that that's always going to be the case. So you really want to make sure you look at online reviews. Don't just go off of what one person says. Personally transport important items. As I had mentioned in our move process, we'll often take all of the fragile items in our cars over to the community that we've boxed up. Why let those items go in the moving truck? Number one, you're paying the movers by the hour. Number two, if you can bring them yourself, you'll have that peace of mind of knowing that they're going to be in good shape when they get there. Movers are not responsible for anything that you've packed. My company is 100% responsible for everything that we pack when we move it. Unpacking tips. Do the unpacking yourself or hire a professional. Again, if movers unpack you, all they are doing is taking the items out and putting them at the nearest location. Arrange the furniture first. Don't start putting items into a china cabinet until you know the china cabinet is in the final place. Also, having said that, if you need to plug in the china cabinet or plug in lamps behind a sofa or behind a bed, oftentimes the outlets are right behind where the headboard is, and you have possibly a pacemaker to plug in, 2 nightstand lamps, a clock, a phone that needs to get plugged in. So you need to make sure that those power strips or extension cords are plugged in before you start unpacking. Arrange all of the furniture first. Unpack one room at a time. You want the items out of your way that are in your walking path. So start from the front door and work your way in. Have a giveaway box. Normally, unless you've used a space planner like myself, you will get to your new space and find that you may have 1, 2, 5, or 10 items that will not fit or you do not need. Have a giveaway box or have a plan in place for what to do if you get to that point where you have items you need to get rid of. Sometimes people need to drop things off at Goodwill after the move once they found it won't fit in the new space. Don't try to unpack everything in a day. Unless you've hired a team to come in and do it all in one day like we do, you need to not try and do everything in one day. It's way too overwhelming. It's too much stress and pressure to put on your children to ask them to do it all in one day. And I think that you'll find that having someone to help you or getting a jump start on the actual unpacking and moving of items is the way to go. Hang your pictures last, always after the items have been arranged, the lamps have been placed, including the shades. Then you will hang the pictures. Do start early and get help. Do use a move manager. Do measure the rooms and storage areas of your new home so that you're prepared. Take multi-purpose items. If you can use it for more than one thing, it's definitely functional. You know, having an entry table versus having a dresser that has drawers may be a dresser with drawers may be a better TV option than an entry table that has nothing underneath it, because you can store in it. Decorate practically with things that you can use and things that make sense. Again, if you don't want to bring a rug, if you are a fall risk or a concern that you'll have a walker that's going to get caught up on it. Don't overstuff your new home. You want to make sure that it's safe to walk through and that there's plenty of room to get around, to turn a walker around in if necessary, or to get a wheelchair through. Don't try to put everything, just because your living room looked one way in one house doesn't mean it has to 100% look the same way in the other. You may have to put the recliner chair on the other side. The recliner chair may have to go into the bedroom. Be prepared for change. Expect the unexpected. Hang TVs to give yourself a little bit more space underneath for decoration. We try to help color coordinate where we can, and again, to maximize the space of the bathroom areas, because oftentimes bathroom space is limited. Use every nook. And that's why using a move manager and arranging it all will help take the pain out of moving and help you live with less and love it. So thank you for having me here today. I know we're coming up on our hour. I'm sure there may be some questions for me. Landria or Jamie, are we able to open it up to that?
Yeah, it's completely up to everybody. They can message in the chat box, or if they prefer, they can unmute themselves to ask any questions that they have. I just want to unmute everybody and then it'll.
How would I see the text box? Does it pop up?
Yeah, if someone types in the text box. I don't see any questions right now. No question. Well, there's no questions. Oh, wait. Oh, it says thank you. This was very helpful and nice to see you again, Bev.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, Zach. And yeah, his information's there, and I'll send that with the follow-up email of the recording. So if anybody would like to reach out to Zach for more information or have him help with downsizing, feel free. And thank you again for attending today.
Thank you.